All right, everyone, welcome. This is Dr. Shiva. Today, my guest, Frank Licata, and what we're going to be talking about, as everyone saw on this header, is about destroying ignorance. And the journey of our movement, Truth, Freedom, Health, and the incredible people that come around is their stories and how they went through this journey to systems, understanding how systems operate and how we actually shatter the swarm. So, Frank, let's begin. Actually, before we begin, Frank, maybe you just want to give a very quick spiel, because I want to play for people who are joining. What is this journey to systems, a journey I went through? And then we want to talk about your journey. Frank, just to tell people maybe just a couple sentences.
Briefly. Yeah, some people might know that I met you back in...
Well, no, who you are, Frank, forget that.
We'll
go to that. Who you are, you're an electrician, the top, just very quickly.
I'm a blue-collar guy. I'm a self-employed tradesman, an electrician. I've been in the business for nearly 40 years, and I'm in Massachusetts, not too far from you, and basically just really just Joe average. I work hard and I live a simple life, basically. And I like to be involved in community activities from time to time, and that's how I met you when you were running the first time for U.S. Senate in 2018. Back there as the poster from it. That's when I met you, and it was revolutionary and exciting, but I learned a lot. From it wasn't just about politics. It was there was a bigger picture to it. I think initially I thought more politically, but now I sort of think like that it's all the game of politics is just right now it's like a big charade and everything. You gotta step back and kind of see the forest through the trees, I guess, sort of the other way around. And that's what I learned through Truth, Freedom, and Health.
Yeah. So Frank, I want to really go through, because our goal is to recognize that the real heroes are people like you who've gone through your journey from trying left, right, being bamboozled, and how you and I met and connected, and really your journey to overcoming all this illusion and really learning, basically destroying our own ignorance within us of the manipulation, the lack of education that they don't provide us. So that's what I want to cover today. As people are joining, I want to start with this video that'll share with you my journey to a systems approach. So, and then we'll come right back with Frank and I. Welcome to VA Shiva. VA Shiva is a product of my journey across East and West, science and tradition, ancient and modern, that brings you the science of systems so you can become a force for truth, freedom, health. VA Shiva is a platform of revolutionary education, community building, and weaponry for unleashing local activism. My journey to VA Shiva begins in the chaos of Bombay, where I experienced diverse religions, languages, castes, and in a small village that had no running water, no electricity, where my grandmother, a poor village farmer, practiced Siddha, an ancient system of Indian medicine over 10,000 years old. She observed one's face, the art of Samudrika Lakshanam, to understand a body's unique constitution, allowing her to deliver the right medicine for the right person at the right time. Watching my grandmother heal others, I was inspired to study medicine, but I was also aware of the corrupt caste system of India, which denigrated a human being, where my family were considered low caste untouchables, where one's birth determined one's destiny. The grit and determination of my mother and father led them to get educated and to come to America, a 1 in a trillion event. Their actions inspired me to work hard and excel. While in 9th grade, I attended New York University in a computer science program, and subsequently at the age of 14 was given a full-time job as a research fellow at what is now known as Rutgers Medical School in the heart of Newark, New Jersey. There I investigated the system of sleep using mathematics, computer science, and biology for sudden infant death syndrome. It was there in Newark where I invented email, when I was the first to convert every feature of the physical, paper-based interoffice mail system, including inbox, outbox, memo, carbon copy, blind carbon copy, attachments, into its electronic equivalent, a system which I named email, a term that I was the first to coin. On August 30th, 1982, I was awarded the first U.S. copyright for the invention of this system, recognizing me as the inventor of email. At that time, copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I went on to MIT, where I earned 4 degrees across multiple systems of engineering: electrical, mechanical, design, biological. That training led me to invent many other systems for advancing humankind. EchoMail, the world's first intelligent email management system. Cytosolve, a computational biology system for eliminating animal testing to discover new medicines faster, cheaper, and safer. And to the creation of a whole systems methodology for certifying clean food. These innovations led me back on a Fulbright to India, where I discovered the missing link between Eastern medicine and Western systems theory, honoring my grandmother, to develop Your Body, Your System, a powerful tool that will help you understand how your body is a system and how the inputs of food, supplements, and exercise bring your body back to its natural system state. And Systems Health, an integrative educational discipline that is now integrated into the VA/SHIVA platform that will enable you to learn the science of systems, the science of everything, be it your body as a system or our society and politics as a system, to reveal the foundational interrelationships between truth, freedom, health. Now is the time for you to be the light, learn the science of systems, build community, and weaponize yourself to unleash the activism necessary to deliver truth, freedom, health in your local community. Welcome to VA/SHIVA. All right, everyone, we're going to be doing a special series that we're starting. It's called Destroying Ignorance. And this is going to be a regular thing that I'm going to do daily. And today we're featuring Frank Licatta. And Frank is someone I met, about in 2017, 2018. And Frank's gone through his journey. I just played that video to share with everyone my journey to really take a systems approach and how beneficial it's been for me through the many things. So I want to start with Frank. Frank, again, for people joining, Frank's an electrician. He's also gone through the Truth for Health Warrior Scholar Program. He's been a fighter with me on the ground. So Frank, just tell a little bit about people. Where did you grow up, Frank? Just tell people about
I grew up in the Boston area, actually Revere, Massachusetts, and I currently live in Andover, Massachusetts. I'm a lifelong Bostonian, as they say. I split my time between Massachusetts and New Hampshire. With it, I call New Hampshire my second home. But yeah, I'm a New Englander. I'll always be a New Englander. I love all the seasons here. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world I'd want to be.
So Frank, so you grew up in Revere? I thought you grew up in Andover.
Well, well, when I was younger, that's we started out in Revere, and then we moved to Andover, and that's where I currently am.
Where'd you do high school, in Andover?
I went to private high school. I was a Catholic high school person. Yeah.
Why did your parents send you to Catholic high school? Were you?
I was a troublemaker in middle school. Yeah, I was getting constantly in trouble, and so they said, "Well, we'll send you over there. There'll be some nuns and priests. They'll crack your knuckles and they'll straighten you out." And they did.
Why would you get in trouble, Frank? What kind of trouble?
I was rebellious. In my youth, I was very rebellious. I guess I just needed a niche to fall into. A trade it does that. By the way, if you have a child that's got problems, either send them to the military or send them to trade school, or both.
So wait a minute. So you go to high school, and then were you on your way to college, or did you just?
It was a college preparatory high school, and I started out going to college, and then I wound up getting into the trades after college, actually. Because I just found.
Oh, so you did go to. So what college? What did you study in college?
It was the University of Massachusetts in Lowell. Back at that time, they called it ULowell. I was in there for electrical engineering because my father is an electrical engineer, and he wanted me to be one just like him. But I think forcing that on someone, they rebel. So I was rebel. I kind of flunked out, and then I get into the trades.
So didn't you say your father worked on the Hubble or Smithsonian?
He worked for Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory in Cambridge, where you are, and for 40 years. And they would explore outer space, not with rockets, but with balloons that they would send up, and they would gather telemetry from distant planets that had long since been extinguished. But a lot of people know Smithsonian as a museum, but it's also an astrophysical observatory, SAO.
And where was your dad from, Frank?
Well, he grew up in the north end of Boston, and then Somerville. His father,
which is Italian, right? Is an Italian.
Yeah, my father's side is Italian. My mother's side is Irish. So I got the Irish looks. But
How many generations ago was your dad from?
I think both of my grandparents were born here. So my great grandparents came over from their respective countries.
From Italy.
Italy and Ireland. Yeah. On my
Okay,
mom's side, Ireland, and on my father's side, Sicily. And I guess, you know, I don't follow it too much, but I guess they distinguish between Italian and Sicilian, even though it's all the same. I don't know.
Oh, so your father's family is from southern Italy, Sicily.
Yeah, they were Sicilian. His father was a fisherman. Basically, his whole life he fished. And his mother was from a farming family. The farmers were inland, the fishermen were coastal. And yeah, it was kind of revolutionary when my parents got married that Irish and Italian would marry. You know, that was like not the norm back then, you know, I guess.
Oh, so when your parents got married, that was like
yeah, it was usually they usually kept to themselves, you know, it seemed.
So did your parents have to like hide their relationship from their
No,
parents?
they had a great relationship. Yeah, they were competitive roller skaters. They were roller skating was a competitive sport, almost like ice skating is in the Olympics, but it never really caught on.
Oh, who was competitive roller skating? Your mom?
My parents. That's how they met. They were competitive roller skaters.
Oh, against each other they compete?
No, they were partners. They would like tour, like they would. It was it was a sport. It was a competitive sport. Yeah.
I see.
So.
So after you went to high school, Frank, then you didn't want to do engineering, and then what happened? You just
tried it, yeah. And you know, I have an engineer's mind, though. I'm even in my job as a electrician. I love troubleshooting and solving problems, particularly the ones that other people can't solve, because then, you know, it makes you look good, I guess, and people pay well for it. You know.
And then you went to trade school, right?
Yeah, I did it nights and weekends while I was working, so I did it the hard way. But I don't recommend that. You know, if anyone's handy, if your kids are handy or your grandkids are handy, send them right to trade school. There's a shortage. There's more old guys retiring than there are young people coming in. And right now, a plumber or electrician, they could make what a doctor or a lawyer could make. You know, and have no college debt. You know, it's a no-brainer for those that are handy. But it seems like kids these days just want to play games, you know, video games. You know?
So Frank, when you became an electrician,
yeah.
Tell people like how many hours that takes to be an electrician. Is it just like you just go and
you
go
have
to night school and they give you a certificate, or do you have to actually go?
You have to find someone to be, you know, get a job, work for another licensed person, and you have to show, you know, tax records that you have 8,000 hours worth of apprenticeship time on the books with a paycheck and all that. That's equivalent to 4 years full time.
And that makes you a master electrician or a journeyman?
That makes you eligible to go take the journeyman's test. And on top of that, some schooling, you know, several hundred hours of schooling. Then you go and you take the journeyman's test. If you pass that, if you're a journeyman for a whole year, you can take another 300 or 400 hours worth of classes. I think they're bringing up to 500 now. I can't remember. And then you're eligible to take the master test, which I just did the whole thing straight through. It wasn't that hard.
Oh, so you have to do, so you go to school, then you have to get 8,000 hours of actual experience.
Yeah.
And then you get to take the journeyman's exam.
Yeah.
And then you have to do what? Another 500 hours?
Year after the journeyman's, and after additional class hours, you can take the master electrician test. But there's really there's not too much difference between them. It's just there's just two categories of, you know, the idea is that a journeyman can work alone, do their own jobs, and can have one apprentice. A master can hire as many as they want, as long as they don't have more apprentices than journeymen. So usually if you're going to run a big company, you would get the master license, which I did in my earlier day, but now I just work alone. It's easier, you know.
Frank, so you started being an electrician. When did you get involved in the interest of politics?
I really wasn't that much interested. I kept to myself on that until it was the beginning of 2015, when a friend of mine in town was running for selectman. And he had this great idea how he was going to save the town $1 million a year by shopping around the health insurance policy for the town employees. I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. I like saving money. So I helped him with that. And it was against all odds that he won. He was trying to unseat this 18-year incumbent that wasn't going anywhere. And this was a newcomer, and he came in, and we overthrew him with some pretty good trickery. Back then, social media advertising was relatively new, and I had this idea about getting one of his videos into everybody's phone and on all platforms, and it worked, and for short money, and he won. And I was so excited about it. I'm like, wow, this is great. We overthrew the establishment, and then and then came Trump down the escalator in June of 2015. And I'm like, wow, this sounds pretty interesting. He's not a politician. I liked people that weren't already politicians. Once they're a politician, I feel it's too late, So that was exciting. I jumped on that train for a while. I volunteered with that campaign for a year and a half, and then shortly after that, I was looking for the next big thing, and I think that's what I did.
So Frank, when you were doing the Trump campaign, what were some of the things you saw that started noodling in the back of your mind? Some reservations you started having, and this was your first time, because I think people need to know tell people how much effort you put in. You weren't just a guy who wore a MAGA hat, right?
Yeah, I did a year and a half with them full time. I put my job on hold, and I was there unpaid. I felt at the time it was revolutionary because I just, it seemed that the rhetoric was all nice and lock her up, build the wall, all that. Of course, he never did lock her up, but I kind of saw this country as being, invaded in a sense, being somebody that skilled labor, it's like, why would I want somebody coming in and watering down what I have, I guess, not coming in the right way. My grandparents came in the right way, as your parents came in the right way. And I just felt like, they use scare tactics on us, okay, we're being invaded and, and drain the swamp. But then when he got in, he was the swamp, literally. And
Frank, when you were, so just to let people know, Frank's got hundreds of pictures with Trump.
Yeah,
you went and did lots of volunteer work. So he never delivered on his promises. But during that year and a half, Frank, did you start? I know you shared with me you saw certain things that he did that didn't make sense. Tell people some of those things.
There were certain things, but I said, all right, well, if he can give me 80% of what he said, then I'm fine with that. That's still a B or whatever. You start justifying things, and I don't know, but I just feel that, once he already, regardless of those things, once somebody's already in office, it's too late. Whoever's going to get in, if they're already there, it's too late. It's like, you got to go for whoever's not held office. Like you, I support you, but if you win, then I can't support you no more, because then you're already in, you know what I mean? I don't know. This is my way of thinking. I like to support those that aren't in office, So
there's someone here, Frank, who says, great conversation from someone who also grew up in Revere. Yeah, Kyle Rothman says, I'm from Western Massachusetts. So Frank, after Trump sort of basically didn't deliver on his promises, and I think someone introduced us.
Yes, well, I was in the GOP. I was in the Mass GOP at that point, and the campaign was taking a look at you when you were running against Elizabeth Warren when you started out in the Republican primary of 2018, and they literally said, go to the RTCs and take notes on this guy. And so I went there with another person from the campaign, former campaigner, and we took notes. And for some reason, they went with this establishment. They, realized that you're not establishment, so they went the establishment route, the Mass GOP.
Just some of these terms you're using. RT's Republican Town Committee.
Yeah.
And Mass GOP's Massachusetts, the Massachusetts Republican Organization. Yeah. So I originally ran as a Republican, thinking that the Republicans would love me. Bottoms up guy, self-made, entrepreneur, successful. But we found out they already had their own rigged candidate, a guy called Jeff Dirty Deal, we called him. And he photoshopped a picture with Trump that you discovered to act as though him and Trump were friends. Yeah.
But it wasn't the Mass GOP that asked us to go watch you. It was actually Trump's people that did.
Yeah. So Trump's people asked you, hey, this guy's running. Go figure out who he is.
I went there that night with Pat. And
Yeah. And it turned out that the local GOP had their own insider candidate.
Yeah.
And they sabotaged that. And so I ended up running as an independent. And that's why I think you have that sign there. You don't have the fake Indian, real Indian ones. Do you, Frank? Do you have any?
No,
I don't know if I have one.
Not with me here, but I have it downstairs.
Right. So it was basically myself, you, and about 8 other people. We ran as independents, and we said only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we must have put up 1,000, 2,000 signs, more than that. I mean, big signs. And we got out like, I think 10,000, all those small signs, fake Indian, real Indian.
And the ones with Elizabeth Warren in her headdress, real Indian, fake Indian, they really stirred the pot really big, including your bus and everything else. And we were punching the bee's nest on a daily basis with that. It was great.
Yeah. So
it goes back to my troublemaking days. See, I can still be a troublemaker as an adult.
Yeah, we put up, people may not know, but we had this, you may want to tell people, Frank, how on that cold, it was, I think, 10 degrees below, whatever it was, you and Richard went and put up these signs, remember?
We would stay up all night, and we would travel hundreds of miles around the state, maybe 1,000.
Right.
At this is a small sign, but we would have the big 4x8 massive ones, and they would go
everywhere. Right. So you can see these were this was our bus, which said only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. We had signs like this, right? And this was at a GOP event. What was that event, Frank? CPAC.
That was CPAC, yes, in DC.
And CPAC threw us out. The Republicans threw us out when we're exposing Elizabeth Warren. Remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, Trump was there to speak at that. We were in another room, and
right.
You had a great reception, but the management of the place wanted you out of there.
Yeah, so this was the establishment GOP knew about our campaign and threw us out of CPAC, which was that Charlie Kirk idiot and Trump's stupid son and all this. But we had these signs. We must have passed out like 10,000 of these signs. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
These cards. So, just to let everyone know, we literally passed out hundreds of these signs. I mean, thousands of these cards everywhere.
The trolling was really the fun part. Like, for example, when we went to the Maine GOP in Portland, and I think it was Donald Trump Jr. that was there, and the governor of Maine. And so we had parked, I had set up my truck with a 4x8 sign like that, real Indian, fake Indian. And the parking attendant let me put it right where everybody was coming in. So everybody in Maine thought you were the nominee from Massachusetts. They thought you were Dirty Deal. So we just kind of went with that. And they all came up to you for autographs and said, hey, we heard about you on the talk radio and, this and that, which that was a great troll that day.
Yeah. And then I think I sent Elizabeth Warren the DNA test kit for her to take the DNA test. And a lot of people don't know, I'm the one who really brought this out. And we sent that DNA test kit, and Elizabeth Warren returned the test kit. If you remember. You remember that, Frank? She returned the DNA test kit. And I did a video saying I'm very, very, upset that Elizabeth Warren returned my DNA test kit. And that thing ended up going viral. And then Fox News and all these people invited me on their show.
Yeah. Initially, until they afterwards.
Yeah, until they figured out that I was an independent and not in their GOP.
Right.
If people remember that. So it was quite fascinating, right? That here we are, we came out of nowhere, just 10 of us, and we ended up running, and we're the ones who exposed the hell out of Elizabeth Warren, and we forced her to take that DNA test.
Yeah.
Frank, you may want to tell people how many signs we put up everywhere. Do you remember that?
It was massive. Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you had thousands of them in your building, and those things were coming and going quicker than we could move them.
Yeah. I actually found the video.
And then remember, the Trumps actually stole your work too with the challenge, the DNA challenge. Too.
Right. Yeah. So I offered Elizabeth Warren, and I said, I will give you $10 million, my building in Cambridge, if you take the DNA test. And in fact, I just found the video just to share with people that as we review this, this is, you know, so if we go here, I think I can share this. Let me just share this again. I got to make sure the sound is on. But this is quite, it's bringing back a lot of memories. And it isn't that long ago, but this was probably one of the biggest trolls in the universe that we did against the fake Indian Elizabeth Warren, right? Let me bring this up. Here we go. So this was a thing that we did where in the middle of this, as a scientist and a biologist, I wanted to show that Elizabeth Warren, because she was claiming she was full-blooded Indian, right?
Yeah.
And let me just show some of these, and just to give you the idea, everyone, you can see it on the Twitter feed. We're the ones, as Frank said, who put all this out there. I mean, Frank constructed these signs. You can see all these signs. You guys can see this. We had these signs everywhere, as you can see right here. I mean, people put these signs up everywhere. Fake Indian, real Indian, only a real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. And the liberal racists who think Elizabeth Warren is not a racist got so upset at the dark-skinned Indian guy was exposing her. Yeah. In fact, I'll show you a video where a guy attacks me, physically attacked me, but we had all these signs everywhere. You can see them. And then this is the video I think I did. Let me bring this up.
DNA testing kit in the mail. All I got to do is send some of my saliva, and I'll know in a few short days whether I'm a real Indian or not. I want to challenge Elizabeth Warren to do the same. I'm calling this now the Real Indian versus Fake Indian Challenge. Elizabeth, why don't you do this? It's really, really simple.
So anyway, I actually got her a 23andMe kit, and I sent it to her, right? And Elizabeth Warren returned it back. Here's the thing. I sent it gift wrapped to her. It was a lot of money, Frank. I sent it to her home, gift wrapped, and she returned it. She didn't accept it. Remember that, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a refund will appear in the original payment.
Eventually, she took it. She had to sprinkle in some Peruvian genes. And
and then even Ben Garrison did one of these.
Cartoon, yeah, that was great.
Right. So this was, so we did all of this stuff. I'm trying to find the video, but anyway, you guys can look it up. But this was quite an incredible thing we did. A few of us really gave the GOP a run. In fact, they were against us calling her a fake Indian. Remember that, Frank?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. They tossed me out of there because they didn't like me supporting you.
Right. So the GOP didn't want us going after Elizabeth Warren. And then after we offered her $10 million challenge, and after she was forced to take that test, a lot of people don't know, myself, Frank, and 10 other volunteers, the night before the election, we literally put up 1,000 huge signs, 8 by, how big were they, Frank? 8 by 6 signs.
4 by 8, 4 feet tall, 8 feet
4 by 8 signs, all over highway overhangs.
Yeah.
We just plastered them everywhere.
Right.
And those are now collector's items. There are people, in fact, the building inspector in the town I live in, this was a couple of months ago, Frank. He sees me, going to get some food at a restaurant. He goes, "Hey, I still have one of your signs."
Yeah.
There are people who have these signs, the real Indian, fake Indian signs.
Yeah. No, it was truly, that 2018 campaign was truly revolutionary. I thought the Trump thing was revolutionary, but then I got that was kind of the warm up for yours.
Yeah. And it got so heated because a lot of the Elizabeth Warren people, because we were exposing her hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that she would say that she was a real Indian.
Yeah.
And then people would come out when we were handing out cards because we were basically saying that she's a racist. And in fact, here's a guy who, if you remember, attacked me. I mean, there's a pretty big incident video. This is something I'm finding quick, and this was front page news. He attacked me. It says assault charge for Elizabeth Warren. So he came and attacked me. I had to get stitches in my mouth, right? And look at his thing. It says liberal.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who attacked me We took him. He had to do time a little bit, and then they let him out. But this was at an Elizabeth Warren event. But we really exposed the hypocrisy of the liberal elite in Massachusetts. So
Yeah, after she bailed him out of jail, she gave him a front row seat.
After exactly after he was thrown out, and that news of him assaulting me went all over the world, right?
Yeah,
everyone picked up on it. In fact, Chris Cuomo commented on it. You know, he said, "Oh, maybe he didn't really get hurt." You know, so it's quite an interesting set of events, and you can just Google this, and you'll find a ton of video on this. You know, out there, and this is right. So here's a guy. I'm going to play the video, Frank. I just found the video. Okay, here's a guy. What happened was this guy shows up at an Elizabeth Warren event, and we went to say that she's the racist. If you remember, we said she's the racist, and she and Whoopi Goldberg were doing this event together in Western Mass, which is all these liberal white elites. So we went there across them. We said she's the racist, and so this white dude who's your typical liberal is across the way, and tell me if you can hear this, Frank. And I'm calling him a racist. If you can see this. So he gets really upset.
You're the racist. Officer, we have a guy waving his umbrella here. Officer, racist. Look at the racist. Oh.
So this is what happened. Anyway, this is the kind of shit that took place, okay? And that guy was taken away by the cops, and then Elizabeth Warren invited him, gave him VIP seating.
Yeah.
So
it seems like wherever we went, we always had police on your side too. You know, with parades, or even that time in Springfield when we invaded the television studio there for the debate. Remember that? The TV studio out in Springfield? I think we had Halloween masks on or something, and they kind of were ID.
Well, the deal was, Frank, we got all the signatures to get on the ballot. We had to collect 20,000 signatures. And then the Republicans and Democrats, Elizabeth Warren, colluded to keep us off the debate stage.
Yeah.
And then we had to take that into a legal lawsuit. They never want fair competition. Because if I had gotten on that debate stage, it would have been fucking over.
They would have been both.
Yeah. So anyway, so Frank, that's how we met. Frank, maybe you can discuss your journey from a political standpoint, going through this transformation of the Trump thing and then coming to the systems level understanding, you know, because I know you gave a nice video about talking about the tools and what you learned. I think everyone needs to understand that what we have now done is to really educate people on how to see through this bullshit. So another person like you doesn't spend another year and a half supporting Trump or Booby Kennedy or Bernie Sanders. I really want people to get what you learned, Frank. If you can just the concept of the not so obvious establishment, when the lights went off from you and from the Truth from Health program, and why it's important that people really learn this knowledge, Frank. Otherwise they're fucked, because it's not like this knowledge is everyone knows. It's non-intuitive. Yeah. So walk people through like where the lights went off for you and how this, you know, the not so obvious establishment concept. Just take your time.
Whether you're on you know, I lean to the right, or somebody else might lean to the left, and they thought Bernie was the man or whatever. Regardless, it doesn't matter. You're going to have this false idol, you know, this false hero, if you will, and everybody wants to believe in some hero, I guess. And when you start to realize that nobody's going to save you, you're going to save yourself. You know, you cannot rely on anyone like that. They're just going to do what they have to do for themselves. And in the end, they're all part of the same big club anyway. It's just like, I think you use the term WWE, fake wrestling. referring to the two sides. And that's it. I mean, Trump and Hillary are the best of friends. I mean, they're just it's there's no two sides of politics. It's all of them versus all of us. They're just, it's just a two-headed snake, like you said one time. So I think we just need to get educated on how this all works, and your program does a very good job at that. From a systems approach, and also you learn a lot of history with you too, because this is nothing new that's happened just here. This is since the beginning of time. There's always been the establishment, the anti-establishment, and then the not so obvious establishment. I didn't know about the term not so obvious establishment until I learned it from you. I just thought it was establishment and agent of change. But the agent of change sometimes is the establishment. That's the problem.
So Frank, with that knowledge, if you were back in 2016 and you were a Bernie Sanders supporter, you now have a framework to understand that Bernie himself was a not so obvious establishment to Hillary. Trump was a not so obvious establishment to the Bushes.
Yeah.
And it's a very important concept, because this is why nothing changes, because the establishment literally has two heads, right? They have the obvious establishment, and then when people are breaking from the obvious establishment in order to keep people, it's like two-headed monster. They have the not so obvious establishment. The Trump, who talks about make America great again, lock her up. He says enough rhetoric that sounds revolutionary and radical. But it's just to make sure. Yeah, just to make sure
it's nice on both sides. Whichever flock you are, you're going to get the good talking points from both of them. But it's all shit. I think you did a nice display with the eagle with the wings. You got the two wings, and you get the tips of the wings that bring the outsiders back in again. The eagle.
Yeah, I did a little sketch, and I said, think about, before I did the Shatter the Swarm video, one of the ways I described it is I drew a picture of a bird. The bird, the head is the establishment, which is one. They have two shoulders. The Republicans and the Democrats are left and right. But then they need the wings, the left wing and the right wing. And they flap once in a while. AOC on the left wing says anti-establishment rhetoric, or Trump says anti-establishment shit, right? But without the flapping of those wings, this bird can't take off and manipulate you. So it's not just the obvious establishment they need. They need the not so obvious establishment. This physics, this principle is what we want to teach people. And Frank, had you known that, and you would not have been confused, but you sincerely spent 1.5 years with Trump.
Yeah, at the time, it seemed like, okay, our side's better than your side, whatever.
Right. So what I'd like to do is I want to, sort of share with people, now that people understand sort of your journey. I think what I'd like to do, Frank, is, as people are listening here, if people go to truthfreedomhealth.com, Frank, you did a very nice video, right? And you did it from a tradesman standpoint, really talking about your journey. So I want to encourage people to go to the website, truthfreedomhealth.com. And I want to play a couple of videos for you, because what I want to do is come back with Frank. And we want to, from the systems approach, we want to talk about, what did we talk about this morning, Frank? Immigration. We started there. What is socialism versus state capitalism? And then we went to.
Can you explain that again? So in my mind, socialism is, communism, Cuba and all that. It leads to that. It's the Bernie Sanders type of thing, or the AOC type of thing. But you had mentioned to me that there's actually two kinds of socialism. There's that, which is kind of a negative thing, and then there's the kind where the people sort of take back the machinery of everything. I don't know.
So everyone should become a Truth Freedom Health Warrior Scholar. Everyone should start with Shatter the Swarm, because it gives you the foundational understanding. And if you don't do this, you're really going to go from Trump to Bernie to Booby effing Kennedy to Tulsi Gabbard to the next flavor of the month. But the way these guys manipulate us, Frank, is they always attack this thing called socialism, or they embrace socialism. So the Democrats are called socialists, like AOC, Democrat Socialists of America, or Bernie, supposedly a Marxist, a communist, right? So you got the Democrats who try to own the fact that they care about the workers. They're socialists. The Republicans say, oh, these guys are socialists. And so they create this dialectic.
Right.
So this needs to be understood. And the problem is 99% of people have never studied Marx. They don't even know what the fuck socialism is. And they think China is socialist and Russia's communist. And then I want to really dissect this, because there is a real socialism, which we've never had. Real socialism, to give you a nutshell, is where we, working people, guys like you and me, actually do the work. We seize the means of production, where the people who work at Verizon seize the means of production. And we say, you know what? All this fucking infrastructure was built by us. Why are you charging us $150 a month for cable bills? And so when you go back and unravel this, what you find is that everything we have around us that's significant was built by we the people. And what has happened is that throughout the history of our development, right, as societies, there was this one major innovation that came, which was called capitalism. Now, before capitalism was called feudalism, and before that was hunter-gatherer societies. And feudalism was good because, we domesticated animals, we created agriculture, we could get food without walking around, right? Some would argue that wasn't good, right? Because we stopped being hunter-gatherers. But nonetheless, it was a stepping stone towards capitalism. Mm-hmm. Capitalism comes across, and it's a very powerful instrument, right? You incentivize people to maximize profit, entrepreneurialism, right? And that concept of capitalism really came around the 1700s. The concept of a worker really didn't exist prior to the 16 and 1700s. People were serfs. They they were given a piece of land, they worked on it, and they gave 60, 70% of what they worked to the king or to their lord, and they got to have this piece of land. The concept of a worker comes into being around the 16, 1700s, where we now are talking about you get paid a salary, okay? You're a wage slave. You work for 8 hours or 16 hours and you got a salary. And this concept of capitalism comes into being where you could go acquire assets like a factory. And then you get people to work in that factory to make, an iPhone, right? And the concept of capitalism was the incentive of the profit motive. So how does that work? You sell products which generate revenue, money. You have expenses to pay, labor, cost of keeping your factory going, right? The lights, the electricity, and then you get profit, right? Revenue minus expenses. So in any industry, you look at any industry, capitalism spurred innovation. And during the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, all this stuff we created was a very early form of capitalism, which was very, very innovative. It's like a young kid, right? Who's very active, you're in your young adulthood, you're vibrant. But over time, this capitalism starts becoming monopolistic. So in any field, you remember, Frank, when the internet came, there were like thousands of internet service providers, thousands of them.
Dial-up, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thousands like TIAC and all these. And then eventually the big companies came in and you ended up with like 4 major internet service providers now. AT&T, Vodafone, etc. Right? So because the nature of capitalism is to maximize profit, there's 2 ways you maximize profit. You either grow new markets. So you sell your cell phones to everyone in the United States. Then you got to go to Africa and sell cell phones. And you got to go to Iceland, right? You keep expanding markets because you got to grow your top line.
Yeah.
And then you got to keep your your expenses low. So, okay, I'm making cell phones in the US. I got to pay people $50 an hour. Let me go to China. I pay them 25 cents an hour. So now what happens is you're able to produce these cell phones that the reality is it probably only cost them $2 to make or 50 cents for all we know. Okay. So in every industry, what's happened is, if you really look, the amazing thing of capitalism, the profit motive, has really brought down price. And this is where the conundrum of capitalism occurs. So now you have 3 or 4 cell phone makers. They've really brought down the price, and they're like, fuck, we brought down the price too low. How do we make more revenue? We have to create demand. How? And this is going to sound funny. They actually create fake supply shortages. Oh my God, the iPhone, we couldn't make it. Oh my God, the pandemic. Oh, we don't have enough food. So in many ways, as capitalism expands and it becomes this decrepit form of capitalism, when in fact things have become very cheap, when everyone should profit, that doesn't work anymore. So if the cell phone is only costing $2 to make and you sell it for $5, Apple's saying, shit, this ain't going to work for us.
Right.
So they create fake shortages, or they say, oh, we're going to add this feature, that feature. It's just incremental shit.
Yeah.
Or in the telecommunications business, I mean, the cost of the internet. I mean, we used to get free TV, man. It was, you paid nothing. You and I are talking about this. Now people are paying $200 for TV, and you get Amazon, and you're actually paying for advertising and the subscription. Yeah. So what happens is, after a certain point, we, the people's money, and the people who created this, the cost should actually be pennies. We should be, I mean, but instead what capitalism does, when it becomes monopolistic, it says, shit, I can't make money because I'd have to sell this for low. So they create fake shortages.
Yeah.
And so this is what was really talked about. Capitalism, like a child grows, it's very happy, it becomes adolescent, it's great, it becomes an adult, and then it becomes like dead over time. And that's where we're at. So you have 4 major telco companies, telecommunications companies. You have 4 major publishers, New York Times, You have 4 major social media companies. And the issue is, what do we do? So now the fake socialists, Bernie Sanders, all these people, their form of solving this is that the government should work with private companies, you say, and they're going to manipulate them. So it's now like in China, you actually have state capitalism. The government and the owners of the companies are one. They all belong to the Communist Party of China. In the United States, we've given this illusion that the government and the private companies are separated, but they're not. The private companies give a lot of money to get their politicians elected. And what's happened now is the politicians make sure that a few private companies get monopolies, Facebook, Google, etc. Or in telecommunications, right? So what's the solution? Well, real socialism, and I want to talk about this, because the Bernie Sanders and all these people are actually fake socialists. They use socialism to rile up people, oh, the workers, and all these union guys. And then the right wing attacks so-called socialism. So they don't want to make sure we, the working people, really fight for true socialism. What is true socialism? True socialism, this is how it would be. True socialism would be all the Amazon workers say, fuck it. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos. We're going to take over Amazon. Mm-hmm. We're the ones who are making all this wealth for you. We take over it. And we're not talking about the government, a revolution occurring, and the government takes, that's called state capitalism. That's what happened in Cuba. Or that's what happened in like China. No, this is very different. The working people of Amazon seize control. They say, you know what? The food is actually quite cheap. We could overnight have heaven on earth. We, the people who do all your fucking work, we own all of this stuff. Get the fuck out. And we're going to use this infrastructure to lower the cost of living. Same thing would occur at Verizon. A lot of my friends who work at Verizon, there's no reason your internet bill should be 100, 200. It should be like $5 a month.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, because the nature of capitalism is every quarter you have to increase profit.
Yeah.
So they come up with schemes to keep their top line high when the actual cost of this shit is so cheap. India, for example, they produce so much fucking food. The government pays the Indian farmers to hide the food, to increase fake supplies.
Yeah.
So the reality is capitalism has worked so well, Frank, that the cost of shit should be pennies.
Yeah.
And 8 billion people should have amazing lives.
So the fake socialists like the Bernie Sanders, they talk a bunch of shit, AOC, and everyone thinks, oh, socialism, that's Russia, that's China. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about we, the American people. A real revolution would be the workers of Verizon say, this is my shit. Get the fuck out. And by the way, think about what's happening now. The government is outsourcing public infrastructure to private companies.
Yeah. So
private companies can violate the Bill of Rights and the government can say, oh, we didn't do it. That's what happened with social media. So I would say, that they don't want us to have this understanding. That's what you and I were talking about. Go ahead, Frank. And I'm not sure what you took from that. This understanding.
I noticed it recently with on a Sunday with the United States Postal Service delivering my Amazon package. It was some kind of a arrangement that the U.S. Post Office has to work for Amazon. So I thought that was a little bizarre.
Yeah. So think about that. The Postal Service is created from our tax dollars.
Yeah.
Amazon doesn't have the infrastructure to really do, so they outsource to our people's infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then they charge you a premium.
Yeah.
So Jeff Bezos is sitting there with that horse-faced woman all day, sitting on his yacht, making billions of dollars. Okay. And then he's using our tax infrastructure and pays them pennies.
Yeah.
But is charging you a premium. So a real socialism would be we, the people, control our public infrastructure, which is what we paid for. Yeah. All those Starlink satellites that fucking Elon Musk put up, he's now getting $2 billion from the Pentagon to spy on all of us. Mm-hmm. Those satellites should be our satellites.
Yeah.
Now, and this is a very different type of what a true bottoms-up movement would do. We would say, get the fuck out. We don't need, even universities. I think I was sharing, Frank, is a friend of mine who's a professor at MIT. He said the professor's salary has stayed flat. The administrator's salary has grown explosively. These administrators are making $50 million, $20 million. Harvard's administrators made 5 of them made $56 million. The professors and the graduate student salaries are flat. So universities have become basically front ends for investment. You take a student loan, you give it to the university. The university is investing in fucking Wall Street.
Right.
They're not educational institutions. So again,
the collateral is the student is the collateral because they can't get out of the loan.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So under a true quote unquote socialist, Bernie Sanders and AOC will never talk about, the students, the graduate students, and the professors take over the university, kick all the fucking administrators out because they're not doing jack shit anyway. You don't need them.
My daughter fell for that free tuition thing, the free tuition lie, loan forgiveness or whatever it was,
Right. So, yeah. So someone said, I want to live without government interference. The only way we're going to get rid of government is we, the working people, should own all this stuff. It's our tax dollars that created it. Yeah. And this is a very different quote unquote socialism. So Bernie Sanders and AOC use the word socialism. So you never really get real socialism. Yeah. And the Republicans attack socialism, so we don't build a bottoms-up movement.
Yeah.
So,
so earlier you said, when the internet first came out, there was a lot of providers, and now we're down to like 4. Well, along those lines, prior to the 90s, for as far as broadcasting, AM, FM, and TV, there were many independent companies. In fact, the rule was you couldn't own more than 1 AM, 1 FM, and 1 TV in any given city. Now you can have 5 or 6 or 7 or wherever. So I kind of got involved with a little project earlier this year called LPFM, where a small nonprofit group is allowed to have a license for a small little community broadcast station. That's what we did. And it's sort of like taking back the public infrastructure that belongs to the people. It's exactly what we did on a very, very small scale in a little tiny town, just as an experiment.
But Frank, let's go back to what you were saying. Very important point. There used to be many, many small FM stations, independently owned by families, by communities.
Correct. Yes, small mom and pop shops, we call them.
And now one company or two, like Clear Channel,
2 or 3 big ones, Yeah, iHeart, Odyssey, the big ones that come to mind. But in between those, in 2000, Congress created what it's called LPFM, which gave small little groups the ability to apply for a little tiny signal. And of course, they were met with a lot of opposition from the big corporate guys. They didn't like this idea, but it made it through. And there was 3 different filing periods. And my little group was part of the last one last year. And we put a station on the air, and we have a lot of fun with it. But mostly it's like we're on the same highway as the big guys, on the same dial. People in the cars in that area can hear us along with the big guys. And we didn't pay anything for it,
Yeah, so that's an example, Frank, of public infrastructure.
It is public because the airwaves are public.
We paid for all of that.
Exactly.
But if you look,
FCC doesn't even charge us any fees filing or anything. They charge the big guy.
Right. So that's an example of, but people fought for that. There was a lot of protests and fights to get that.
Yeah.
But still today, when we put up our ads, we went to your billboard ads, to get radio ads. One company in Massachusetts, across the East Coast, Clear Channel. Clear Channel owns most of the major radio stations, and they own the billboards. Yeah. So I remember we wanted to put real Indian, fake Indian, and Clear Channel said, "Oh, we can't let you do that."
Yeah.
Now, this is what's important. If that radio infrastructure was still owned by the government, and the government said no, I could sue the government for violation of First Amendment. Yep. So governments have outsourced public infrastructure to major radio stations. So that radio station, which owns that band or that highway billboard, can say no to us, and we can't sue them. Right. This is what's very important, because they have First Amendment rights too.
But also, as a condition of our license, they also said we can't be political. That's the funny part. We can't play favorites politically, or we'll lose our license.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that's the control that they have. Yeah. So they gave they give small people the station, but they said you can't be political.
Can't be political.
Which people should sue on. That's a violation of First Amendment.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, we talked about that, but I hope that conversation was valuable, because we want people to understand a true bottoms-up workers movement where we, the people, seize the means of production. That's real socialism. And what they've done is, in the US, they've done enough to say China is socialist. China's actually fascist. It's state capitalism. Mm-hmm. It has and Bernie Sanders is nowhere near socialism. So, and then Frank, I think we started talking about immigration, right?
Yeah. So you're an immigrant. My ancestors are immigrants. Everybody was an immigrant at one point. One of the things when I was supporting Trump was, okay.
By the way, Frank, Jenny Smith said we have a billboard company that said no to vaccine awareness, but they advertise gay-related stuff on the highway that our kids can see. So anyway, you see, so now media companies are owning First Amendment rights, when all of that infrastructure should be owned by us, we the people. This is why government started outsourcing stuff to private companies. That's an example. Go ahead, Frank. Talking about immigration now.
Yeah. So
Frank, what I'd like to do, Frank, before we go to immigration, I want to play a couple of stuff from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We'll get a cup of water. But we want to talk about immigration, and then we want to talk about what's the next thing, Frank, about Ukraine and Russia, right? How these things are related.
I'd like to learn more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just want to, everything we do at our movement is supported by everyday people. Frank, I was thinking, you and I were talking about this when we come back. Frank, you do generator work, right?
Yes.
And one of the programs we want to start is anyone who's a business person, small business person, we want to promote what you do. So people know, Frank, maybe you can come back and tell us what you do with your gen work, and you can help people in Massachusetts. But let me just play a couple of videos. We talked about our movement, and we want everyone to get involved in the movement for truth, freedom, health. But let me sort of play this video, a couple of other things, because everything we do is supported by you guys.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite, working people. There's only one movement that can do that, And that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is, the dynamics of all systems that affect nature. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Truth, freedom, health. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is the not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is the not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. We're building a bottoms-up movement, and that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done, and it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. You know, Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote-unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum where people can go to truthfreedomhealth.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. And the Senate campaign's expanded to the movement for truth, freedom, and health, and they can find it on truthfreedomhealth.com. So people can sign in, they can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com.
And so everyone, one of the ways you can support yourself is becoming a Truth from Health Warrior Scholar. So you start really understanding that there's a physics, there's a science. One of the places I think everyone should start is at shattertheswarm.com. It's a 15-minute video. You can watch with your family. It's Disney friendly. and it'll really give you an understanding of how the few control the many. So Frank, why don't you start sharing a little bit about, we started having this discussion about immigrants. Every year, it's always, people always blame the immigrants. We got to stop the immigrants, illegal immigration, illegal immigration. And I think you and I were sharing how they get people bought into this stuff, right? Or we were talking about how Kamala Harris does word salad. And I was saying, look, Trump lies all day. She does word salad, but they frame how we look at these people. So the MAGA-tards will say, oh, she's word salad. She's an idiot. And then the Democrats will say, oh, Trump is a con man. Both of them are actually true. But they want one group using, they give us the fuel to attack each other. And you got to step way back, and same with the immigration issue. Go ahead, Frank. Maybe you want to describe to people on immigration. Go ahead.
Well, I think immigration is wonderful, legal immigration, as our ancestors have come through Ellis Island. I think that's what America is all about. I get a little bit upset when I see them breaking in through the border, the porous border, much as I would, I equate our country to like my home. I would invite people in to come in through the front door, but don't break in through the window at night when I'm sleeping. So that's where I feel. Now, I understand people are seeking a better life. They're coming from horrible circumstances, and you never see anyone breaking out the other way, breaking into Mexico. They all want to break in this way. So obviously, we have something that is very special here that other places don't have. And actually, last time we talked, you kind of taught me to see the bigger picture, that America has created some of these problems in the world, and that's why people are trying to escape those types of governments. And I can understand that too. But I
think the discussion we had, Frank, was the democracy we have about what discourse occurs and what we focus on having discourse is always caged in how they tee it up for us. And that's what I wanted to share with you. So every 4 years, oh my God, the immigrants, the illegal immigrants. So one group says they care about the immigrants, and the other group says, let's deport them all. And then they get people fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so every issue they do is to get us fighting each other. And so the point I shared with you is, illegal immigration, legal immigration. But let's just stay way back. Let's just go all the way back. And what I said was, why the fuck did my parents even have to leave India? Like, why? Why did your ancestors have to leave Italy? Why did other people have to leave Ireland? Like, there are countries with massive amount of resources. Why are they leaving their countries? Mm-hmm. And the people that are leaving their countries, in the case of my parents, are the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
My dad was an amazing engineer, the best of India, who worked his butt off. Same my mom, a woman who came from a broken home. There's a picture of my mom, this dark-skinned Indian woman, around 50 men with turbans, light-skinned men, Brahmins, and she's the one who gets an education. Now, she's a brilliant freaking woman. So India
definitely could have benefited greatly by your parents being there.
Exactly.
India.
So I've always wondered, like, why the fuck did my parents leave India? Think about that. One day you're living in India with your grandparents. You have, cousins and family, and we're literally uprooted. Mm-hmm. You lose all your family, and you're brought over here. And why did my parents come? Well, the United States didn't have enough engineers and technicians. So in the late 60s, they opened up certain immigration pools for very smart people. My dad had to be recommended. He was like the best of the best. And then we had to wait a year and a half before my mom and I could come with my sister. You see? So here's India, which is a struggling country. The best people start leaving. Brain drain. The issue is why? And if you unravel this, it's not just something that happened in the 70s. You got to look at the whole picture. 300 years, British come into India. They rape the shit out of India. Massive violence, disrupt India. And India becomes a very corrupt country because they install, white men with crowns leave India and brown men with hats take over India, who are even more corrupt than the British. So everyday Indians really smart people can't survive here. So the brain drain takes place. But what caused all that? Well, it was British imperialism. It was Indians who were part of British imperialism. You say? Ultimately, it was a dynamics of raping and pillaging, which caused immigration even to take place. Now go look at all the brown people in South America. Well, those are all the people that are doing my fucking landscaping here. They're the ones who, now why are they leaving Mexico and Chile and all these places? Well, we put fucking Pinochet in Chile, who butchered his people. We put Batista in Cuba.
Yeah.
The United States, while it claims democracy, or not the people, the US imperialists, we install dictators in all these fucking countries who brutalize their people. If you ever saw this song that said, Bruce Colburn, who was an American songwriter, he wrote the song saying, "If I Had a Rocket Launcher."
Oh yeah, I know that.
Remember, it was a great song.
An excellent song.
Yeah,
By the way,
and
that's on our playlist at our little station.
yeah, so Bruce Colburn goes to Guatemala and he sees like this kid who's been orphaned, his mother's been killed by US dictator helicopters, which just go kill all the fucking people. So none of this is talked about. The brutalization we did to these people in South America and Latin America, so we could keep their labor cheap, so we could exploit them to make, baseballs, or, it's crazy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So you need to look. So those people are fleeing that environment. You've devastated their infrastructure. And there's no way they could even do legal immigration, because legal immigration from those countries means you have to pay off people to properly file for visas. Okay? So the left wing doesn't want to discuss the background. They want quote unquote illegal immigrants. And so does the right wing. Why? Cheap fucking labor. We don't have enough handymen. We don't have enough landscape. We don't have enough of these fucking people, because they've taken the white population here and given them free stuff, or the black population, so they don't work.
Yeah.
So the larger issues left out, but every 4 years, the immigrants. No different than they attacked the Irish when they first came here. Oh, those filthy Irish, or those smelly Italians, right? So the establishment always pits us against each other, but they make sure that we're focused in this little 2-year frame fighting against this stuff. And that's the conversation that needs to be had. I think the real issue, Frank, is what we talk about. Let's talk about citizenship. Let's talk about who is a real citizen. What about the entire Congress? There are people who hold 2 citizenships, Israeli citizenship and US citizenship.
That's not right at all.
That's fucking not right at all. I had to give up my passport. I gave it up. I could never run for president. I had to give it up. Took the oath of allegiance. These people are still Israeli citizens. Like, who's a fucking criminal? Those people move $18 billion to Israel to butcher people. Oh my God, these brown people coming over the border. That's Trump. Well, why the fuck doesn't he talk about Jared Kushner and all of his people who are fucking Zionist scumbags? Who's the real citizen? It's not about immigration. It's about citizenship. Who is actually loyal to this country? Who actually works for this country? Trump ain't fucking loyal. He should be deported. What the fuck doesn't he get deported? It was Netanyahu who put him in power. So you see, the larger discussion they don't want us to have. But when you take a systems approach, which is why I tell people, go become a Truth for Health Warrior Scholar, learn this stuff. We take a big systems approach. So we don't get caught in the establishment's discussion of the day. Oh, immigration. They don't give a fuck about immigration. They don't give a fuck about immigrants. They don't give a fuck about working people. And so that's why I brought it that, because 2 generations ago, Frank, your people left Italy on your father's side and Ireland, when these are beautiful countries. Why the fuck are they leaving these countries? Because those countries are being devastated by dictators like Mussolini, who, by the way, Western imperialism supported. The West supported Mussolini, right?
Yeah.
And many Italians, people left these areas because they were being devastated, raped, and pillaged by the same people who are talking about immigrants coming in. Like, they're making money off those countries.
Yeah.
So I really think we need to understand this. And neither the left or the right gives a fuck about immigrants.
It's just talking points for them. Yeah.
It's talking points, Frank. That's why I thought it was valuable we had that conversation.
Yeah.
Because we need to raise our consciousness. Because, Frank, you know, in Revere, a lot of hardworking Portuguese, right? you know, it's very hard to get a handyman. You recommended those guys who went and did my tiles. They did really good tiles. I don't see any other people who want to fucking work that hard.
I think first generation, no matter what the nationality, is the hardest working people. Because you know when you've been here too long, you tend to get a little lazy, I guess, because it's like we have it too good, like almost. But I find first generation to be very, you know, great work ethic, you know.
Yeah. So our movement is trying to always look at what is the conversation they want us to have. That's why, you know, I wanted to. They want us to talk about immigration, talk about abortion, talk about this. We have to really step back. Wait a minute. Who the fuck is setting the agenda? What we should even be talking about? And while they have us talking about immigration and, you know, whatever, Trump or Kamala Harris, you know, she does word salad. Trump is a con man. Over here, they're stealing the bank.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that too, Frank, what we talked about, like Ukraine and Russia, what's really going on.
Yeah.
And
but just to wrap up immigration, though, wouldn't you agree that it's, you know, we got to come here the correct way and not break in? You know, that's the only point that I was making.
Yeah, but no one would disagree to that, Frank. The issue is the Republicans don't give a fuck about legal or illegal immigration because they just want to have it as a talking point.
Yeah.
Because if they truly cared about immigration, take a systems approach. Why are these people coming here? Why are we going and funding dictators in all these Latin American countries? Why are we doing that? It's the U.S. taxpayer dollars that went and supported the junta in Nicaragua, the people in El Salvador, the brutalization of, I mean, they went and killed a bunch of priests all over Guatemala. Like, why don't we talk about that? Let's talk about who put dictators in power. Okay, you want to talk about immigration? Let's go to the root cause.
Yeah.
When you take a systems approach, you go find the root cause. Why are we subjugating these people to butchering them? And this is what people do not want to talk about. So the Republicans and the Democrats always want to localize it to what seems like, oh my God, I'm for legal immigration. Who the fuck isn't? But the issue is, why are these people even fleeing their countries?
Yeah.
Why are they fleeing their countries? Why? Now, why isn't that talked about? It's so obvious in your face. Why isn't there everyday Fox News? Why aren't they talking about why people are fleeing these countries? Why? Oh my God, people are coming here. Yeah, why? Why?
Yeah,
why are they doing this?
They risk their lives.
Oh, they're being let out of prison. No, that's not the fucking reason. That's not the reason. Right? So let's say all the Palestinians tomorrow want to come to the United States. Oh my God, these brown Palestinians, these Muslims are coming here. Well, who the fuck caused the fucking shit in Palestine? So we need to have that discussion. So what I'm saying, Frank, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to Kamala doing word salad or Trump being a con man, let's step back. Why are they wanting us to have those conversations?
To divide into two camps.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
it's
right.
easy to conquer when you divide.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I shared with you when my dad came here, he was paid 1/3 of his white counterpart. He would work 16-hour days, amazing chemical engineer. My mom was a mathematician. She'd get paid half. So here are these very smart people who leave their countries, come here, and they're treated as second-class citizens.
Is that
now?
That's not the case today, though, right? It's. I mean, that's back then.
Well, they do it in other ways. They divide men and women. Women get paid a little bit less, right?
Yeah.
The so-called illegal immigrants who come here, they're always afraid they're going to be caught. So they get paid under the table, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, but ultimately there's an underground economy that is boosting Wall Street, so you get maximization of profit.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the illegal immigration, quote unquote, they don't want to solve it. Neither Wall Street wants to solve it or the Democrats, because it's a source of free labor, cheap labor.
The landscaping will cost a lot more.
That's what I'm trying to say. So I think we want to wrap up by talking about the real enemy, Frank. And I think I shared with you what that ultimately it's about Russia right now in this Ukraine war. Maybe you want to share with people what we discussed briefly on sort of, Russia, Ukraine.
I'm not as educated on it as I should be, but it seems like everybody is after Russia for their natural resources that they're abundant in. I don't know a whole heck of a lot of it. I know they have a lot of fuel under their ground, a lot of precious metals and things.
Frank, you work how many days? I mean, you work your butt off, right? So you probably hear news, what, like Ukraine, something went there, and Middle East, something's happening. We bombed Iran. I mean, just share with people, like, when you look at Ukraine or Iran, like, what's the news you've been hearing? Like, if you're trying to piece this together.
Watching news a long time ago. I don't like. My wife watches the news. I don't watch the news.
Right, but even from hearsay, it's hard to really get an understanding of what's really going on there, right? Like, if you were, like, before we go into this, like, what is the idea that you have? Like you probably see, oh, something's going on over here in Ukraine, something's going on over here in the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
They never connect these things.
I don't trust anything that comes out on any TV station. It's just always a narrative. They already have their agenda. So, I don't go for it.
Yeah. So I think when you step back again, and that's why we recommend everyone take a systems approach. And I can't overemphasize this, that people, by the way, Frank, as you know, every Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m., we do a huge orientation. You get to meet people from all over the world. A lot of other people like Frank who've gone through this journey. But if you look at what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, this is my systems analysis. The natural resources of all of Russia, like their gold, their diamonds, their oil. What number do you think it is, Frank? You may already know. How many trillion do you think Russia's worth? Like, if you just went and liquidated Russia today.
It's more than we have.
What do you think?
I wouldn't know.
Take a number.
How many trillion?
Yeah.
100 trillion?
Close. 75 trillion.
Okay.
So here you have, so imagine like your house is worth $75 trillion. That means all the furniture in your home, all the oil reserves. So in Russia's case, someone said 85 trillion. Okay, pretty close. It's 75 or 85. What's another trillion? But if you take Russia, they have 98 quadrillion cubic feet of natural gas. 45% of the industrial diamonds are out of Russia. You look at the agriculture, the soil, right? And they're into non-GMO, right? Organic. I mean, it's just massive. And if you look at a picture of Russia, it goes all the way from the border of Germany all the way to like the tip of Alaska, right? Where near Alaska, right? To the Far East. I mean, it's massive country. What is the net worth of the value of the United States natural resources? What do you think, Frank?
1/10 of that, maybe.
45 trillion.
Okay.
It's about half.
Half. Okay.
Iran, interesting enough, is around 30 trillion. Okay. I think Venezuela is around 10 trillion. So the reason I'm putting these countries out here is, think of these, you're playing Monopoly, and you have these big countries' properties. So Russia is 75 trillion, US is 45 trillion. So if you're 45 trillion, you see some guy with 75 trillion, what do you want? If you're the, huh?
Yeah. You want to go get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So US has an alliance with Canada, which is around 20 trillion. So that gives in that pool 65 trillion. Australia, another about 25 trillion, right? These are all allies. Russia has alliances with Iran. So this is, when you look at it from the model of the oligarchs, they're looking at owning property. Okay? So in 1976 and 78, a guy called Zbigniew Brzezinski, remember him, Frank? He used to be on but he was a protege of Kissinger.
Okay.
He was Secretary of State for, what's his face? Jimmy Carter.
Mhm.
His protege was the next protege was Condoleezza Rice. So these are like people go to Harvard all day long thinking about domination of the world.
Yeah.
So Zbigniew Brzezinski's model was the United States must enter a world war with Russia. This is in 1970. He wrote a paper on it,
Wow.
which was the architecture. We must enter a world war with Russia, and we must make sure we completely hack up Russia into at least 3 major regions. Split up Russia as Eurasia on the, on the west coast, central, like Siberia, and on the east coast, far east Russia. They wanted to split it up and then take those regions and further atomize them into smaller and smaller countries. Why? Because they don't want a unified Russia. Because it was the Russian people who lost 25 million lives fighting Hitler, fighting people like Mussolini. The reason that your ancestors, Frank, had to leave Italy. The reason Germans had to leave Germany, right? Because the United States and Britain supported these fascists. And it was a Russian people in 1940 who fought. It was the Russians who won World War II. So in the spirit of Russia is still that fighting against fascism. And in the 1900s, it's still the fighting of the Russian workers who did the Russian Workers' Revolution, you see? So the Russian people have this fortitude of fighting against Hitler. Hitler was supported by Britain and the United States, who wanted Hitler to seize Russia. So in 1970, these crazy people said, we must destroy Russia. So by 1990, NATO comes into being, right? And it was Gorbachev who the United States CIA put in power, and he blows up the Soviet Union, was paid handsomely to do that, and they break up the Soviet Union, leaving Russia and all those Eastern European countries, which all became part of NATO, you see? So this was part of that strategy. Ukraine is the last piece of that, at least outside of Russia. So in 2014, Obama, McCain, George Bush, all these guys engineered, or Condoleezza Rice engineered a coup in Ukraine. They put a neo-Nazi in power. And that's why the people of Eastern Ukraine got so upset. And then you have the Ukraine war, because Putin's like, what the fuck? You took all of the Eastern European countries, brought them into NATO. Now you're on my doorstep.
Yeah.
And these people are furthermore Nazis who my father and my mother and Russians fought against. That was it.
Yeah.
And the goal was to pump all the oil from Eastern Ukraine up to Europe and make sure Europe's dependent on Russia was chopped off. And Condoleezza Rice said that in a speech. So the goal has always been to fuck up Russia. So they start the war in Ukraine on the eastern side, and then they also have satanic Netanyahu go start bombing Gaza. Why? It's not just about committing genocide in Gaza. It's to bring Iran into the war. If Iran comes into the war, Frank, then Russia has to go defend Iran.
Right.
So Russia now has to fight on 2 fronts.
Yeah.
And Putin is seeing all of this happening. So the goal is to, and Lloyd Austin said this, we want to squeeze Russia. So again, this is all about real estate. Now, Frank, you're working hard. The average American like you, a bunch of electricians, plumbers, no one has the time to figure this shit out.
Right.
That's why I thought our conversation this morning warranted us sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch the news, it's like Russia bad, Ukraine good, whatever. So, but there's always more to the story.
Yeah. Or, Israel good, Palestinians bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's disconnected news.
Yeah.
But when you take a systems approach, you realize, wait a minute, it's the American people who are funding people like Jared Kushner, people like Netanyahu, the elites, to go start wars. So let's say they invest $100 billion in these wars. Then they're going to fuck up Russia, and they're going to get maybe 1/3 of that $25 trillion, $75 trillion, $25 trillion. So they're looking at it as a return on investment, Frank. They're going to put in $100 billion into war, and Jared Kushner and Trump get to build Trump hotels in Gaza, in Lebanon, etc. That's what this is about. So they don't give a fuck what we say on social media. They don't give a fuck if I call them a Zionist. They do give a fuck if I start educating working people that we must build a bottoms up movement and shatter the swarm. That's why we get shadow banned.
Right. Yeah, because they can't control the person network.
Well, they can't control you, Frank. So the reason I wanted to start doing a series of interviews with people like you, people like Jenny Smith, people like Jason Long, is I want people to understand, in my book, the real heroes are you. I don't want to do podcasts with some name brand idiot, you know? That's what Joe Rogan does. But Joe Rogan follows me, but will never put me on a show because it's too dangerous. So the way we're going to fight back is we want to know about Frank Licata. People should know Frank Licata put up 1,000 signs, 10,000 signs. And I think people, Frank, need to understand that you took what? I mean, for our campaign, Frank, I mean, you went and collected signatures, right? Yeah. Thousands of signatures. You got us on the ballot.
I think everybody likes to be involved in something, you know, on any scale like that, you know.
Yeah, so our heroes are Frank Licata. So I was doing an interview yesterday with some idiot, and he said, what about Trump? What about this? What about that? I said, you know, you're asking a lot of stupid questions. Why didn't you ask about what the fuck you're going to do? Why didn't you ask about Frank Licata, what he did? So this de-brainwashing is what we're doing. We're like smacking people upside, like, what the fuck, what questions are you asking?
Right.
So that's what I hope people understood. I think so. We've covered the depth of immigration. Yeah. We've covered the depth of really understanding Ukraine, Russia, what's really going on. And where did we start with, Frank? We started with state capitalism versus what is real socialism. These are deep issues.
Yeah.
So Frank, go ahead, Frank. Why don't you summarize from what we just discussed for others? Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, yeah. No, so I was going to ask state capitalism. I used to call it corporatism. Is that one and the same, right? Corporatism?
Yeah, I mean, but it's very different than conflating that with socialism. You see what they do?
Yeah.
They conflate it.
I actually didn't know the two different socialisms. You know, I just figured all socialism is bad, whatever. But, you know, okay, there's the fake one and the real one, basically.
Well, yeah, they conflate state capitalism, what China does with socialism. They don't want us to really talk about real socialism. Right. AOC doesn't, Bernie Sanders doesn't, neither does the right way.
They don't want all the workers of Verizon taking over Verizon. They don't want to.
Exactly. They don't want, the reality is we could have heaven on earth today. Great food, low cost of living, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good summary, Frank. So on the immigration side, what's your sort of core takeaway?
Well, I still feel strongly that all countries should have a strong border and a system in place, you know, for asylum as well as for citizenship. But I can see why people are coming here because, you know, we screwed up their place. So therefore they're coming over here. I get it. And, you know, I benefit from low cost labor too, so I can't complain, right? If I'm going to have somebody change my roof, it's not going to be a white guy that looks like me, you know, it's going to be the best price, you know? And I think we all do that. So unfortunately.
And then on Ukraine, so if you were to summarize as you're talking out there, Frank, on Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East, I think you can connect it, right? What would you say would be a synopsis of that? What's really going on with the Middle East?
I can see. I mean, everybody's trying to demonize Putin, but I can clearly see he does not want NATO on his doorstep, and it's sort of like a beehive, you know. Just don't poke the beehive. Just leave it alone. Don't go near it, you know, or it will sting you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We're going to be so to everyone out there. We have a massive global movement. People can go to shattertheswarm.com, and that's where they can start. Become a Truth, Freedom, Health warrior. Come to our regular open houses that we do. You can meet other people like Frank and others, so you know you're not alone. You look at a guy like Frank, hardworking. These are real people. We do not have celebrities here. We do not have people just grifting. We walk the walk. You know, when Frank, I remember the many, many times we went out in the rain and the snow, putting up signs. These people don't do that. You know, in our current campaign, we spent less than 100 grand, and we're nearly on the ballot in every state.
Amazing.
It's fucking amazing, right? They don't work. So we're going to honor, and I really want people to start honoring ourselves. We should honor Frank Licata. We should honor yourself and save yourself. And if you go onto our website, shivaforpresident.com, and if you go there, let me just go here. I want to encourage people to go to the website. You can download, go to the downloads, and you can literally get this card. It says save yourself. And the back of it is telling you what was summarized what Frank and I have been talking about. Cost of living is going up, lifespan's going down. And we want everyone to really encourage everyone to watch Shatter the Swarm. It's a video that every family, every child, all 8 billion of us should watch. And then once you go through that, recognize that we've created a powerful movement. So you don't have to feel alone. That's what they want to do. And so you don't get caught up in stupid discussions which don't go down to the root of it. So that's what I wanted to do. And every day we're going to talk to different people. You're going to hear other Franks and the journeys that they went through. So you start recognizing we have a shitload of smart people on this planet. The elites keep wanting to, oh, everyone is dumb. They don't want to dumb. No one cares. It's bullshit. Our movement is finding a lot of people who care, but they are intentionally fed shit. And so, Frank, before we reach out, you know, your final thoughts.
Well, I just think we need more Shivas in the world, at least in the country anyway. It's all about multiplication at this point, because our lifetimes are relatively short on this earth, but this is really so much bigger than ourselves. So I think we need to learn this stuff and pass it on, you know, just as you're doing right now, passing it on, but others also have to pass it on too.
Thanks, Frank. Frank, best to you and your family. I want to thank Frank Licata. You're looking at a real hero here. Trump ain't a fucking hero. Kamala Harris ain't a hero. Frank Licata is a real hero. Frank's gone through his journey. He works hard every fucking day. Trump does not fucking work. He has to fake working. He spent probably $2 million going and working at McDonald's, and then idiots saying, oh my God, he's one of us. No, he ain't one of us. Frank, is Trump one of us?
No, he stages a lot of those things. I saw those up close, that, you know, where he would stage.
Is Kamala Harris one of us?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Even
so they create these characters, and they get one wing hating one group and another wing hating another group. And it's interesting. The Times Siena poll said it's 48%, 48%. What the fuck?
Yeah. Real quick, what do you think about how people can now bet on things like that? That you can place a wage, you know.
They've been doing that for a long time. That shows this is all entertainment.
Yeah.
They do not want us, you, jumping into the arena, supporting our campaign, handing out cards. When I brought up those cards, I mean, our volunteers are out handing these cards, millions of them.
Yeah.
So if you want to be entertained, you know, you can go suck Zionist cock all day. But if you want to do something and save yourself, download these cards. If you're too lazy to print them, just go to the shop. You can order 10,000 of them. We've made it easy. You have no excuses to get involved. You can come to our open house. We will give you work to do. We will make a man or a woman out of you. Okay? Someone said Trump is gay. I heard Diddy took his ass. I don't know. We can verify that. Could be true, right? Clearly, him and Melania aren't doing anything. They can't even kiss each other. It's like, have you seen them kiss? They're like fighting. Have you seen them?
Yeah.
Right. No, we don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, I want to end with a couple of things. The way you guys can support. You can support our movement. Go to truthfreedomhealth.com. Contribute to our campaign, but most importantly, get involved. You know, your labor is more important than your money, but get involved. So I'll play a couple of closing things. I want you guys to understand I'm still a full-time scientist. I work on Cytosolve all day. Like Frank, we create amazing products to help people, and it's all done bottoms up. Jenny Smith says, be a regular passer out of info in your community and own it. Yep. Jenny's out there passing out information. She's a mother. She has got to take care of her family. She's out there. So everyone get out there. Barbara Boyks is out there. Trump the Tramp, Barbara says. But we're talking about real people who are involved in this movement. If you want fake people, don't watch this. And this is why Elon douchebag Musk shadow bans me. The guy's a complete fake. He's a government Mossad agent. He's invented nothing, okay, except himself to act like he's created something. So people need to understand our movement has real people like Frank. And if you want to be part of something real, join us. If you want to be entertained and over there, please, we'll give you recommendations to Trump or Kamala's campaign. Frank will gladly write you a recommendation letter. We don't want idiots. All right, everyone, I'm going to finish up with playing some videos, but get involved in Truth, Freedom, and Health. And every day you're going to hear another Frank Licata. And we're going to be destroying ignorance. And that's what we started with. We want to thank Frank again. And we feature Frank as our hero. We want to thank Frank Licata for coming today. He's our hero. And the heroes are among us. We don't need them. It's time for us to unite, bottoms up, and to shatter the swarm. All right, Frank, thank you very much. I'm just going to play a couple of videos, and we'll be back, okay? Thank you. We'll play a couple of videos. Thanks.
Millions of people
Frank,
suffer every day
you
from
too,
painful
okay?
discomfort and swelling, but most pain medications come with harsh side effects, and many alternative supplements have little scientific backing. That's why we at CytoSolve created MV25. MV25 was formulated using the CytoSolve Computational Systems Biology Platform, a technology for precision and personalized health invented by Dr. Shiva during his doctoral research at MIT. This formulation is the result of computing trillions of potential combinations of biomolecular interactions derived from thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers published across 4 decades by 68 research institutions to discover an optimal synergy of compounds that downregulate biomarkers of discomfort and normal swelling.
Hi, I'm Barbara Ann. My hands would cramp up so that I couldn't hold cards or knit or crochet, and they would go like that. And I'd have to use this when I played cards with my grandkids. And I started taking that MV25. After a bit, I was able to hold cards in my hand, very, very little cramping, hardly at all anymore. MV25.
Hi, my name is Sandy. I'm a Taekwondo instructor. I tore my ACL during Taekwondo. I had a lot of pain and limited mobility. I've been taking the MV25 for about 6 months now. After the first week, I noticed a big difference. After the second week, almost literally no pain.
My name is Jeremy, and I suffer from a lower back problem. Hurt my back at work years ago, and I can go to the chiropractor, do all kinds of different things, and nothing seems to help. And I decided to try MV25. I didn't notice a difference immediately, but within a few days, the pain went away, and it stayed away. I've continued to take it, and even when I do things that I shouldn't do, it seems to go away a lot quicker than it ever did before.
MV25 is certified clean, 100% non-GMO, made in America, and GMP certified for good manufacturing practices. MV25 is CytoSolve optimized, which means that this formula has been engineered to maximize benefits while minimizing toxicity based on current research curated by CytoSolve. As the science advances, so will this formulation. This is our promise. Order online at mv25.life. Consult your doctor before taking any supplement or medication and use as directed. MV25.
Who would have ever thought I'd be running for president of the United States of America? I was born a low-caste untouchable in India's caste system, a system of aristocracy, oppression, and racism. My name is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. I'm an MIT PhD, a Fulbright scholar, a scientist, engineer, entrepreneur, and inventor. My family and I left India to come to America on my 7th birthday. I grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of New Jersey, playing baseball, mowing lawns, painting houses, and coding software. My friends and neighbors are blacks, Italians, Irish, people of all races. As a 14-year-old, I wrote 50,000 lines of software code to create the world's first email system, and was awarded the first U.S. copyright for email, recognizing me as its official inventor at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I did that long before I ever came to MIT, revealing that big innovations can occur anytime, any place by anybody. Growing up, I saw politicians dividing us by race and religion in both America and India, to have us fighting each other while they remained safe in their gated communities and in their playgrounds of Hollywood, Martha's Vineyard, and Silicon Valley. I'm a fighter. I fought racism and exposed their imperialist wars, fought for workers and put my life on the line against global corruption. I never wanted to run for political office. All that changed when I saw working Americans as never before being duped by the establishment and the not-so-obvious establishment. Across left and right, we were being sold out and made to forget why we came to America and why America existed. Lawyers, academics, billionaires, celebrities, and politicians, elites, Clintons, Kennedys, Bidens, Obamas, Bushes, black and white have hijacked America. They printed trillions for their friends. They delivered crumbling infrastructure, corruption, and racism. They've transferred trillions to themselves, dividing black and white, fear-mongering, and fake science. Lockdowns and censorship, dirty air, food, and water, pushing drugs upon us, making us sicker. We've been sold out. One set of rules for them and another for us. We deserve a warrior with a history of courage in putting everything on the line for you, who believes in you, not them, who has created a movement bottoms up for truth, freedom, health. I've exposed their lies at the right time, never waiting until it was popular. I've exposed their false gods who exist to lead you back to them. I've exposed their fake science of lockdowns and masking and provided you solutions to fight them and win and protect your immune system, saving millions. I exposed Fauci, galvanized the Fire Fauci campaign when others remained silent. When they stole our election, we sued the government and Twitter in our historic 2020 federal lawsuit, exposing in bare view the government and big tech censorship infrastructure, the unholy alliance between government and social media companies. Where was Elon and his grifters? They stood by the sidelines and did nothing. They did not use their megaphones to help us when it could have made a big difference. Now our movement grows for truth, freedom, health, independent of all of them. Every day millions are learning the science of systems, the knowledge the elites do not want you to have, so you may learn how to think, stand up, and fight, independent of the establishment of left and right and their fake heroes. Now it's time for you to join the movement, to win back America, to win back truth, win back freedom, win back your health. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. This race is about you. This race is about truth, freedom, health versus power, profit, control. We've had enough. They think we'll fall in line and vote again for their lawyers, celebrities, billionaires, and chosen ones from above. We choose our heroes from below, from the rank and file, who do what is right at the right time, not when it's convenient and popular. They can never represent us. What America needs is a movement by the working people, for the working people, who are educated, organized, decentralized, and fight for independence from their systems of control. And that movement exists. It's ready for you. We don't need them. We need us to go bottoms up, neighbor to neighbor. My journey, your journey are all the same. It's our time. It's time we had one of us. It's time to win back truth, freedom, health, to win back America. Be part of this historic movement, all the way to our victory on November 5th, 2024. If you're an American citizen, pledge your vote now for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the independent candidate for U.S. President. No matter where you live, you can be a part of this. Volunteer as little as 20 minutes a day. Don't delay. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and I approve this message, paid for by Dr. Shiva for President. Hello, this is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Welcome to VA Shiva, the platform of education, technology, and activism, so you may raise your consciousness to win the truth, freedom, and health you need to create the future you deserve. The VA Shiva platform provides its truth, freedom, health warrior scholars the following 3 capabilities. Number 1, an ultimate education that is based on the science of systems. Number 2, technologies to empower you to take charge of your health, as well as social media tools, independent of big tech, so you can connect with other incredible truth, freedom, health warrior scholars equally dedicated like you to winning truth, freedom, and health. 3, instruments for activism, so you become a beacon of light in your online and offline community to educate others' growth and advancement. VA Shiva provides you the foundations of the science of systems, the ultimate education. The science of systems provides you the missing fundamental scientific knowledge to understand every system in and around you. The science of systems will enable you to uncover the real problem and real solution in any situation and on any issue. Concerning the educational component, first you will receive direct access access to me to learn the science of systems in my 3-hour live private online group class that I run every week. Second, you will have access to archived lectures so you can continue your education independent of me. Third, you can test your proficiency in learning the fundamental principles and get a formal certification for the foundations of systems. Independent of this classroom education, you will receive also 4 important books. The first book is the best-selling classic Systems and Revolution, from which you can learn all of these concepts and more. The second book is The Science of Everything, that will educate you on how the science of systems is the foundational knowledge of every system in the universe. The third book, Your Body, Your System, focuses on how to understand the interplay of these systems within your own body. And then the fourth book, Your System, Your Life, will help you apply these principles to other aspects of your life, such as running a business, understanding relationships, and more. Beyond the curriculum and books, the second capability is the technologies that you will be afforded. One of them is a powerful Your Body, Your System software, which is an online laboratory where you can use your body as a system to further deepen your understanding of the science of systems. The tool allows you to understand what kind of system you are. Is your system on course or is it off course? And how the inputs of food, supplements, herbs, activities such as sleep, yoga, meditation, exercise can affect your body to bring it back on course. Finally, to support your education, I've also included a seminal scientific paper that I wrote, which will help you understand that the knowledge of systems, it does not only originate in the modern world starting in the 1920s and 30s, but it actually dates back 10 to 20,000 years and intersects directly with the foundations of Eastern systems of medicine. In addition to this, you will also get 2 scientific papers sharing how the science of systems can also be used to apply to understanding how food is medicine. One paper exposes turmeric from the molecular systems level and how it affects your body. The other paper explores ginger and how that affects your body. That's just the educational piece. As you raise your consciousness through this education, you will likely want to connect with other Truth, Freedom, Health warrior scholars in an environment where you can connect and build community. To support that, I've also created 2 powerful social media tools. One of them is the VA Shiva forum. Here you can start discussions, you can pose questions and meet others and have healthy debates. The other is VA Shiva Social, where you can create your own profile, your own presence, like other major social media tools. However, it is independent of big tech. You can use VA Shiva Social to interconnect with your fellow Truth, Freedom, Health warrior scholars and build community. Beyond the education capability and the social media capability, the platform also enables you to take action by disseminating your knowledge on the ground and into your local online and offline communities. Powerful educational cards and research are included so you can pass these cards to your friends and neighbors that provide them summarized content, which further directs them to online research and education. In addition to this, the activism component also provides you many short 1-minute educational video content, memes, and text, allowing you to quickly craft messages for your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and other pages so you can deliver content to educate others and drive them to longer educational posts on VA Shiva. VA Shiva is fundamentally an enabling platform for you to get the truth, freedom, and health you deserve through education, technology, and activism. I hope you become a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior scholar today. Thank you.